What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I try and help you guys keep on top of the world's #2 economy. My name is Tony. This update is being filmed and released late Tuesday evening, early Wednesday morning, Beijing time. Let's jump in. In the last episode, we did a deep dive into the current state of the Chinese economy and some of the issues that Beijing policymakers are facing. If you did not watch the last episode and you're interested in following the Chinese economy, it came out a few days ago, I'd highly recommend watching the first 5 or 6 minutes. With this episode though, let's just build on the last one by looking at a few key developments in China's property sector and what it means for the wider economy. According to a report released by real estate data collector China Real Estate Information on Sunday, last month property sales for the country's top 100 developers dropped 32.2% year on year by value, following a 36.2% slump the previous month. We also know from recent data released this last week that land sales, a critical source of revenue for local governments, are down across the country, and particularly in Tier 1 cities like Beijing and Shanghai. The report that I just mentioned also contains another concerning point. According to the report for the institute that is based in Beijing, 80 of the 128 property developers listed on the Chinese mainland reported that in the first 9 months of the year, their financing activities cost more money than they brought in through those activities. That is, debt payments outweighed new borrowings. That's up from 61 from the same period last year. And we have a few small updates regarding specific Chinese property developers that have come out over the last few days. In the US, credit holders took control of a stalled skyscraper development in San Francisco, California, from indebted Chinese developer China Oceanwide Holdings Co. for failing to pay a matured bond valued at $334 million US. It is also being reported that troubled property developer Kaisa Group Holdings Limited is seeking buyers for its Hong Kong listed property management unit and 2 residential sites in the city. We remember, of course, from last week, S&P downgraded this Chinese property developer's credit rating to a CCC+. House prices are also in trouble. In fact, house price growth is inches away from declining. Data released from the China Index Academy this week shows that new home prices in the 100 cities surveyed rose only 0.09% month on month, less than 0.1%, slowing from September's 0.14% increase. So why is this so important to China's economy? The housing sector represents approximately 25 to 30% of Chinese GDP, and homes represent about 70 to 80% of Chinese household wealth. So any reduction in the price is going to hit consumer confidence, and any reduction in property development is going to have an effect on China's growth unless the government steps in and pours credit into the property sector, or more likely shifts investment to most probably unproductive infrastructure, thus putting more strain on China's debt servicing capacity in the medium term going forward. We're now entering week 3 of this latest Delta outbreak, and while the situation still hasn't blown up, it is also still not under control. There are dozens of new local cases every day across 14 provinces and cities. One was discovered yesterday, actually, in the city in which I live. And so my city here has been introducing a bunch of measures over the last 24 hours in response to that one case. There are millions of people currently under varying forms of lockdown, including in some districts of the capital city, Beijing. Because China is still pursuing a zero-tolerance policy, even the discovery of just one case results in a massive local and central government response, which comes with it a large economic and social cost. The official line from Beijing, however, still remains that on balance, this cost is worth it. On Monday, the Beijing Health Commission announced measures that will make it increasingly difficult for people domestically to travel to Beijing. They expressed that Beijing-based people who have left the city for whatever reason, whether business or visiting family, whatever, and have yet to return should, quote, postpone their return schedule, end quote. These measures are likely going to be in place for months, up until the Winter Olympics next year. On Sunday, due to a positive case from a woman who traveled to Shanghai, Disneyland, over 34,000 people had to undergo testing before leaving the park that evening. All were found to be negative, but they were still required to isolate in their home and have to do so for 2 more days before undergoing a new round of tests. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the episode, don't forget to hit that like button. It's a huge help for a small YouTuber like myself just starting out. It tells the algorithm that this is real content from a real creator. If you're watching this for the first time and you're getting some value from the information, maybe consider subscribing. I release 2 of these a week, and if you subscribe, hit that bell notification, you'll be notified when these come out so you have the most up-to-date analysis on China's economy and China policy generally. And as always, a huge thank you, a massive thank you to my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much, guys, for your ongoing support. I always appreciate it. Cheers. Over the weekend, US Secretary of State Blinken met with People's Republic of China Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Rome. The US side stressed areas of cooperation included, quote, DPRK, that is North Korea, Burma, Iran, Afghanistan, and the climate crisis, end quote, but also raised concerns about, quote, a range of PRC actions that undermine the international rules-based order, end quote. These included, according to the US State Department, quote, actions related to human rights, Xinjiang, Tibet, Hong Kong, the East and South China Seas, and Taiwan, end quote. In fact, on Taiwan, Secretary Blinken made statements that during the Obama and Bush administrations, the State Department simply would not have made, frankly expressing to China that it must not, quote, unilaterally change the status quo, end quote. From the PRC side, Wang Yi expressed that the US has to, quote, change its wrong China policy, end quote, and cease, quote, interfering in China's internal affairs, end quote. On Taiwan, PRC Foreign Minister Wang Yi expressed, quote, the situation across the Taiwan Strait has become tense again, and the United States has repeatedly stated that this was caused by China's change of the status quo. Yet this is not a fact at all, end quote. Now this statement from Wang Yi, however, does not seem to be very consistent with recent statements coming from Chinese state media itself. For example, on Monday, the state-run Global Times, in an article entitled, quote, PLA sent nearly 200 aircraft near Taiwan in record month, end quote, expressed, quote, during the drills, the PLA, People's Liberation Army, broke the record on several occasions, end quote. Continuing with the statement from Wang Yi argued that there was room for cooperation on, quote, climate change, energy supply, the Iran nuclear issue, the situation on the Korean Peninsula, Myanmar, and Afghanistan, end quote. Now also on US-China, over the weekend, US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen spoke to the PRC Vice Premier Liu He over the phone. Ms. Yellen expressed that the United States, quote, expected China to meet its commitments under the Phase 1 trade deal, end quote, which was signed under former President Donald Trump, but could, quote, look at eventually lowering some tariffs, end quote. And one more thing while we're on US-China, the Office of the US Director of National Intelligence expressed in a recently declassified report that a, quote, natural origin and a lab leak are both plausible hypotheses for how SARS-CoV-2 first infected humans, end quote, but that, quote, analysts disagree on which is more likely or whether any definitive assessment can be made at all, end quote. Okay, for the quote of the week, we're going to look at a popular opinion recently published in the state-run People's Daily. Again, this is to get a sense of the current zeitgeist among Beijing elites regarding their view of the superiority of China's system. This is the quote. Quote, the great significance of the new Chinese modernization path for the development of socialism is reflected in the fact that scientific socialism has been given a powerful vitality in China in the 21st century, and the historical evolution of 2 ideologies and 2 social systems and their competition in the world have undergone a profound transformation in favor of Marxism and socialism, end quote. And last up, it is becoming increasingly clear that Beijing is set to roll out a new project called the Global Development Initiative, a project to operate alongside the Belt and Road Initiative, also known as the One Belt, One Road Initiative, Beijing looks to be very serious about this new initiative, which may end up being as big as the Belt and Road Initiative itself. We currently have limited information on the Global Development Initiative. We do know that it was proposed by General Secretary Xi Jinping. We also got a bit more information last week when PRC Foreign Minister Wang Yi gave a speech at the Sustainable Development Forum discussing this new initiative. Wang Yi said the Global Development Initiative, GDI, quote, embraces people-centered development, end quote, and, quote, endeavors to meet the aspirations of all nations for a better life, end quote. It focuses on, quote, development as the master key to addressing all problems, end quote. So we can see very sort of vague diplomatic language. He went on to say that the initiative has, quote, identified priority areas including poverty alleviation, food security, COVID-19 and vaccines, financing for development, climate change and green development, industrialization, digital economy and connectivity, end quote. He concluded by saying that the initiative is an, quote, important public good and cooperation platform, end quote, that China will provide to the international community. Now, a phase that I've seen a lot in state-run media recently discussing this new Global Development Initiative is that nations in this initiative, member nations of this initiative, will, quote, learn from China's experience in state governance, end quote. General Secretary Xi Jinping seems to be promoting the initiative recently. Last Wednesday, he invited Equatorial Guinea to join the initiative. The following day, he extended the same invitation to the leader of Uzbekistan. Okay guys, that's the end of this episode of China Update. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. As always love hearing from you guys. Wherever you are, I hope you're keeping safe and keeping sane. I will see you all next time on China Update.